Imagine you've been running your whole life, running toward success, toward approval, toward happiness, and yet every time you arrive, you find nothing, a mirage, and no one ever told you why. You were born into a game you didn't design. From the moment you opened your eyes, people were already placing labels on you. Boy or girl, smart or quiet, good or troublemaker. Your name, your nationality, your religion, all handed to you like a costume for a role you never auditioned for. And then they told you the rules. Study hard, get the job, make the money, find someone to love, build a home, raise children, and one day retire. It sounded simple enough. But the secret no one told you is this. The finish line keeps moving. Every goal you chase has been nothing more than another step in the endless cycle of when I get there, then I'll be happy. You probably felt it, that quiet sense of unease when you achieve something you've been dreaming of, and yet the satisfaction fades quicker than you imagined. It's almost as if life is playing a trick on you. You spend years climbing the mountain, only to find that the summit was just a stopover to yet another peak in the distance. Why does this happen? The answer is both unsettling and liberating. It happens because you've been taught to live as though life is a journey with a destination, a final, climactic point where everything falls into place. But life is not a journey. It's a dance. And you were never meant to dance only for the last step. Think of music. We don't listen to a song just to hear the last note. The beauty is in the melody, the rhythm, the rise and fall. And yet, somehow, you've been convinced that the song of your life is only worth something if you can get somewhere by the end. This is why so many people live like they're rehearsing for the real thing, waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right feeling, instead of actually living now. And this is the great tragedy. But here's the secret. You already have the thing you're looking for. It's been with you since the beginning, hidden beneath layers of fear, distraction, and expectation. You don't have to become someone else to find it. You don't need to earn it. You only need to notice it. And the moment you do, the chasing stops and the living begins. It's strange, isn't it? We're taught that happiness is somewhere out there, in the next promotion, the next relationship, the next city, the next version of ourselves. And yet, whenever we arrive at those milestones, life continues. The sun still rises, bills still arrive, the dishes still need to be washed. That's because the real contentment isn't found in arriving anywhere. It's in being here, now, exactly as you are. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming or stop moving forward. It means you stop postponing your life until some imagined future. You begin to see that each moment is complete in itself. This moment, right now, is as alive, as real, and as worthy as any moment you will ever experience. But you've been trained not to see it. Your mind is too busy rehearsing the future or rewriting the past to notice the miracle of the present. If you truly understood that, you'd live differently. You'd speak differently. You'd love differently. You'd stop rushing. You'd stop waiting for the big moments and start seeing that every moment is big, that even washing your hands could be an act of wonder when you're fully there, feeling the water, noticing the light. And here's the most important part. Once you realize that the present moment is the only place life actually happens, the fear begins to fade. Because fear lives in the future. Fear is the shadow of what might be. But right here, in this very breath, in this very second, there's no fear. There's just life happening. This is what the world never taught you. That the finish line you're chasing doesn't exist. That life isn't about reaching the end. It's about being fully awake at every point along the way. That your worth isn't measured by what you achieve, but by how deeply you live. And so, the question is no longer, where am I going? The question is, how alive am I right now? If you can answer that honestly, you'll find that you've already stepped into the secret that so many spend their whole lives missing. The secret they never told you is that you were never supposed to arrive. You were supposed to dance. What if I told you the greatest prison you'll ever escape has no walls, no guards, and no locks, and yet almost everyone you know is serving a life sentence inside it? You've been in this prison since you were a child, though no one meant to put you there. It's a prison built entirely out of ideas, beliefs about who you are, what you can do, and how the world works. These aren't facts. They're simply stories you were told over and over until you started to believe them. You didn't choose these stories. They were given to you by parents, teachers, culture, religion, and the invisible hand of society. They told you what success looks like, what failure means, what kind of love you deserve, and even what dreams are realistic for someone like you. And because these messages came so early, you didn't question them. You wore them like skin. The bars of this prison are made of should. I should have a stable job by now. I should be married by this age. I should be further ahead. I should be happier. And when you believe these shoulds, every day feels like a test you're failing. The walls are built from comparison. Social media, gossip, even casual conversations. They all reinforce the illusion that everyone else has figured it out, that you're the only one who's behind, confused, or missing something. You scroll through other people's highlight reels and feel a growing sense of inadequacy, forgetting that no one posts their doubts, their breakdowns, their quiet nights of despair. And the locks on this prison? They're made of fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of taking a risk and finding out you're not good enough. This fear keeps you obedient, keeps you playing safe, keeps you inside the comfortable discomfort of the life you've outgrown. But here's the truth. The door to this prison has always been wide open. There's no key because there's no lock. The only thing keeping you inside is the belief that you belong there. The moment you start to question that belief, the walls begin to dissolve. You see, the life you're living right now, even if it feels normal, is only one of an infinite number of possibilities. You don't have to keep playing the same role you were assigned. You can rewrite the script. But to do that, you have to let go of the need for permission. No one's going to show up and tell you, it's safe now. You can be who you really are. That's your job. Freedom doesn't mean quitting your job, moving to another country, or abandoning all responsibilities, unless that's truly what calls to you. Freedom means living in alignment with what feels real for you, not what's expected by everyone else. It means making choices from a place of love, not fear. And here's the paradox. Stepping out of the prison doesn't always feel comfortable. In fact, at first, it's terrifying. Because when you spend your whole life inside the walls, the open sky can feel dangerous. The uncertainty of freedom is far scarier than the certainty of confinement. That's why so many people stay. They tell themselves, one day I'll change, but one day never comes. The moment you stop waiting, you begin living. That's the shift. Not when you have the perfect plan, but when you're willing to take one step outside the cell, even if you don't know what comes next. And here's the beautiful part. The first step is always smaller than you think. It could be as simple as saying no to something that drains you, yes to something that excites you, or speaking a truth you've been swallowing for years. The world changes the moment you do. Opportunities appear that you couldn't see before. People you resonate with start to find you. Life begins to respond to your authenticity, like a mirror reflecting your courage back to you. But to reach that point, you must be willing to lose the approval of those who prefer the old you. That's the cost of freedom, and it's worth paying, because once you taste life outside the prison, you'll never want to go back. The real secret they never told you is that the prison was never real. It was always a shadow in your mind. held in place by the fear of your own power. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. So the question becomes, will you walk out? Will you stop being the obedient prisoner and become the architect of your own life? Or will you keep pacing the same four walls, calling it safety? Because life, real life, begins the moment you realize you've been free all along. You've been taught to hold on, to cling, to plan, to manage every detail. But what if I told you that the tighter you grip life, the more it slips through your fingers? From the moment you wake up, you're trying to control something. You control how you look, what you say, how others see you. You try to control your schedule, your future, your relationships. You worry about what might happen. You replay what already happened, and somewhere between, you call this living. But control, at least the kind we've been taught to chase, is an illusion. Think about it. You didn't choose the time or place you were born. You didn't design your DNA or decide who your parents would be. You didn't control the weather today or the way traffic moved or the thoughts that popped into your head just now. Most of what shapes your life happens without your permission. And yet, you spend your days pretending that if you just try harder, if you just plan better, you can make the world bend to your will. This belief is exhausting, and it's the reason so many people live with constant tension, because deep down we all know the truth. Control is never guaranteed. You can follow all the rules, work all the hours, say all the right things, and still, life will throw you into storms you didn't see coming. People will leave, markets will crash, accidents will happen, and the harder you try to resist what is, the more you suffer. But here's where the secret begins to reveal itself. The opposite of control is not chaos. The opposite of control is trust. Not blind trust that everything will be perfect, but trust in your own ability to meet whatever comes. Trust that you can swim, even if the waters change. This is what it means to flow with life rather than fight it. You've seen it in nature. Rivers don't fight the rocks in their path. They move around them, over them, sometimes even through them. Trees don't cling to last year's leaves. They let them fall so new ones can grow. The ocean doesn't resist the tide. It becomes the tide. And yet, here we are, humans, the only creatures that try to control the uncontrollable, to freeze life into a permanent, unchanging shape. What happens when you stop? At first, it feels like losing something, your grip, your structure, your certainty. But then you realize you've only lost an illusion. You haven't lost control because you never had it. And in its place, you've gained something infinitely more valuable, freedom. Freedom from the need to make everything go your way. Freedom from the constant fear of what if. Freedom to be here fully, without needing the next moment to obey your plan. Letting go is not giving up. It's not laziness. It's not passive. Letting go means you still act, you still make choices, but you do it without clinging to the outcome. You set your sail, but you allow the wind to carry you. You stop forcing the river to flow straight, and instead you travel with it, discovering places you never would have seen if you'd insisted on your own map. This is where life's beauty hides. In the moments you didn't expect, the detours you didn't plan, the connections that happen by accident. If you control too tightly, you miss them. You're too busy staring at your script to notice the play unfolding all around you. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to control everything, you actually gain more influence over your life. Because instead of wasting energy resisting what is, you're fully present to respond to it. You stop reacting from fear and start acting from clarity. You become adaptable, and adaptability is a far greater strength than control. Look back at your own life. Some of the best things that ever happened to you probably weren't part of your plan. Maybe they came disguised as problems, detours, even losses. but they shaped you. They brought you here. And if you're honest, you can admit you couldn't have predicted them, and you couldn't have orchestrated them. Life handed them to you when you stopped gripping so hard. So here's the shift. Stop asking, how can I make everything go my way? And start asking, how can I meet whatever comes my way with openness? This is not weakness. It's the deepest form of strength, because it means you're no longer fragile, no longer breakable every time the wind changes. You bend, you flow, you endure. And when you begin to live this way, something amazing happens. Fear loses its grip, because fear thrives on the need for certainty. But when you stop demanding certainty, fear has nowhere to root itself. You don't need to know exactly how the story ends. You trust yourself enough to live it as it unfolds. The secret they never told you is this. You were never meant to hold life still. You were meant to dance with it. And in every dance, you must be willing to follow as much as you lead. All your life, you've been wearing a mask. But here's the strange part. After all these years, you've forgotten what your real face looks like. From childhood, you learn the art of disguise, not in a malicious way, but in the quiet, subtle way we all do. You discover which parts of yourself got praise and which parts drew criticism. You learn when to be loud and when to be silent. You shaped your smile to fit the room, your words to match the crowd, your dreams to fit what others would approve of. Little by little, you built the mask. It wasn't a lie, not exactly, but it wasn't the whole truth either. It was a version of you that could survive, succeed, and be accepted in the world you were given. The problem is, after years of wearing it, you began to mistake it for you. But here's the cost of the mask. Every time you hide a piece of yourself, you feel it, not always consciously, but deep down, you know when you're not being real. There's a quiet tension in pretending, a dull ache in the soul when your outer life doesn't match your inner truth. And the longer you keep the mask on, the heavier it gets. It doesn't just hide your pain, it also hides your joy, because you can't selectively numb. If you shut down the parts of yourself that are vulnerable, spontaneous, and unguarded, you also shut down the parts that are fully alive. This is why so many people live in quiet discontent. From the outside, everything looks fine. The job, the home, the relationship. But inside there's a voice, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a roar, saying this isn't it, this isn't me. And most people ignore that voice because listening to it feels dangerous. It threatens the life they've built. It threatens the approval they've earned. But here's the truth. That voice is your compass. It's the one part of you that still remembers your real face. And it will not stop calling you back to yourself, no matter how long you try to silence it. So why is it so hard to take the mask off? Because you've been taught that your worth comes from the mask, from being likable, successful, impressive, together. You fear that if people saw the unfiltered you, the one with doubts, messy dreams, and imperfect edges, they'd walk away. But the opposite is true. The more real you are, the more you draw on the people and opportunities meant for you. The more you pretend, the more you attract things meant for someone else, which is why they never quite fit, why you can have it all and still feel empty. Taking the mask off is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And when you finally do, something extraordinary happens. Life becomes lighter, conversations feel easier, decisions become clearer. You stop playing to the audience and start living for the truth. But here's the part that scares people most. When you live without the mask, not everyone will stay. Some people like the version of you that made them comfortable. Some relationships were built on performance, not the person. Losing those connections can hurt, but it's not a loss. It's a clearing. It makes space for what's real. And in that space, you discover something else. You were never as alone as you thought. When you start living authentically, you become a mirror for others. You give them permission to drop their masks, to breathe deeper, to admit that they've been hiding too. This is how authenticity spreads, not by preaching it, but by living it. Now here's the deepest part of the secret. The mask you wear in public is nothing compared to the one you wear in the mirror. The way you see yourself is still filtered through old stories, past failures, and inherited beliefs. You don't just need to drop the mask for others. You need to drop it for yourself. You need to look at the reflection without the layers of judgment and say, there you are. I remember you. And maybe, for the first time in years, you'll feel a strange, quiet relief because you'll realize that nothing was wrong with you after all. You weren't broken. You were buried. So here's the question. If the mask is so heavy, if it hides a life you truly want, it is not even real, why keep wearing it? Maybe today is the day you let it slip. Maybe today is the day you step out into the world as yourself, not the polished, edited, socially acceptable version, but the unfiltered, living, breathing human being you actually are. Because the secret they never told you is this: the world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. One day, you will wake up and realize there's no more time left to start living. The question is, will that day be today, or will you wait until it's too late? Every second of your life so far has been leading you to this moment, right here, right now, not because this moment is more special than any other, but because it's the only one you can ever truly live in. The past is a memory. The future is an idea. But this breath, this heartbeat, this exact awareness is real. And yet, most people will trade it away. They'll spend their now chasing a better later. They'll postpone their joy until they have more money, more success, more security. They'll wait for the right time to take the trip, start the business, say the words, live the dream. And in that waiting, life slips quietly through their fingers. Here's the harsh truth. There is no right time. There's only now. The conditions will never be perfect. You will never feel completely ready. And that's the point. Life is not meant to be controlled into perfection. It's meant to be entered into fully without guarantees. The people who understand this are the ones who look back without regret. They're not the ones who had the most success or the safest plans. They're the ones who took the leap while their heart was still beating fast. The ones who risked looking foolish for the sake of being real. The ones who stopped watching life from the sidelines and stepped into the dance. And make no mistake, life is a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Sometimes the rhythm is slow and steady. Other times it's wild and unpredictable. You don't get to choose the music, but you do get to choose whether you move to it. The tragedy is not that life is short. The tragedy is that most people live as if they have an endless supply of time, and only when the clock runs out do they realize they've been rehearsing for a show that was already happening. The secret they never told you is that there's nothing to rehearse for. You are already in the performance. So, how do you live this way? You start small. You say the words you've been holding back. You take the step you've been postponing. You let yourself feel something fully without numbing it, without analyzing it to death. You let go of the picture of how life should be and let yourself be surprised by how it actually is. You choose presence over perfection. You choose courage over comfort. You choose connection over appearance. And you do it again tomorrow and the day after and the day after that until it's no longer a choice but simply the way you exist. When you live like this, you start to notice something magical. The world begins to meet you halfway. Opportunities arise that feel like they were waiting for you all along. The right people show up at the right time. Synchronicities, those strange, meaningful coincidences, become almost normal. It's not magic in the supernatural sense. It's simply the natural consequence of aligning your inner world with your outer actions. And yes, life will still have storms. You will still face loss, pain, uncertainty. But those moments will no longer define you. They'll move through you like weather, and you'll find the sun again. Because you'll understand that no storm lasts forever, and you were never meant to live in shelter all your days. You'll realize finally that the meaning of life was never hidden in some distant future or buried in some cosmic secret. It was right here, in the way you love, in the way you breathe, in the way you notice the small, fleeting miracles that are happening around you every day. The sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight on your face, the way a stranger holds the door for you. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see that the real purpose of life is not to arrive anywhere, but to participate fully, deeply, and without reservation in the great unfolding mystery of it all.